that kind of brings us to our first question. Like, what team is going to be the team that knocks them off if they don't win the Super Bowl?
Finish this sentence. You can, however you want.
Okay.
The Chiefs' biggest competition to winning the Super Bowl this year is blank.
I mean, I know it's cliched to say themselves, right? Like, for all the reasons we put forward, but I think in some ways, turning the ball over, right? That's it. So, like, I know what you want is you want a team. And I'll take the Tennessee Titans, right? It's either the Raiders or it's the Titans in my book. I think the Steelers are a bad matchup because they know only one way on defense. They're going to blitz, and Mahomes is going to destroy them.
And they suck.
And I think the tables have really turned between the Chiefs and Steelers. Alex Smith and the Chiefs, that version of the Chiefs went up against the Steelers. They couldn't get over the hump. Yeah. Even if the Steelers didn't score a touchdown, they'd win 18-16, right, in Arrowhead after the Chiefs had a bye week. And so I think the tables have turned. The Chiefs are now the absolute kryptonite to the way that the Steelers and Ravens want to play that attacking style defense. So I know it'll upset people in Pittsburgh, and I respect that opinion if the Steelers roll the Chiefs.
Don't worry.
Steeler fans will have the last laugh. But I don't think it's it. I mean, I think there is a scenario where the Titans, get the Cowboys 49ers game happens and the Chiefs turn the ball over two times, and it's the first one comes after being already down 7-0. And it gets to 14, and it gets to 21-0, and they're digging out, and they make them fight. But that Mike Vrabel is a good enough coach that he recognizes I can't just lean on the running back all day, and I've got to keep spinning it. And they never just go one-dimensional and try to just pound the rock. They still have a healthy dose of the running game, but they keep firing to keep putting points on the board. And so I think the Titans are scary. And I do think there's something wrong with the matchup with the Raiders, right? The Raiders are kind of that styles make fights, the adage that you hear in boxing, like, one guy might have 5 losses, the other guy might be undefeated, but for whatever reason, he's constantly stepping on his toe. He's got this up and under move, or the headbutt's bothering him, or whatever it is. And that guy who's an inferior fighter against everyone else that the two of them might fight has got the problems to what this guy is. I think the Raiders' offensive line has exposed the Chiefs' lack of pass rush, right? And if there's a place where they're not better, right, or not as good, it's their pass rush. Mm-hmm. And, they've been able to, cover that up with good safety play, although Juan Thornhill has been in a doghouse for the team after getting off to a good start. But with good safety play, and then 4, to your guys' point, I know you make this point all the time, and I think it makes perfect sense, no weak links in that secondary, right? 4 corners that are all number 2, number 3 corners, right? Mm-hmm. None of them are 5s, none of them are 6s. They're all in that no worse than being a number 3 corner. You look at the PFF grades, you guys put them all 20-something to 40-something, right? If there's 32 number 1 corners and 64, and another 32 number 2 corners, then theoretically they have nothing but number 2s, right? And so while they don't have a Darrelle Revis that they can say, take this guy out of the mix, they got 4 guys and there's no weak links. And so, if they get any pass rush, their defense should start to look like it did over the last 9 games, last 6 regular season games and 3 postseason games.
Nothing.
But it hasn't been there. And you guys, I've had to come around and bow to your greatness on Frank Clark, right? He has not been the shark this year. Yep. And he's been very blockable of late. And if they don't pressure, then even a good secondary will eventually get exposed. So, they've done a lot of things right, but the Raiders, for whatever reason, can block everything, and they make plays down the field, and they can put points on the board. They're the one team that seems to be able to go up and down the field on the Chiefs, even if they can't do it against other teams.
Nothing but number 2s. Odell Beckham Jr., very jealous. Go ahead.
Jesus. Oh, man.
Hey, wait a minute. By the way, is this when the professional what was the quote? Professional expectation manager comes in to to set the stage. By the way, how you will be billed here? No longer a data scientist. You will be professional expectation manager.
There's like numerous people who have found that hilarious. Like, so they were like rolling around in their chair laughing at that segment. But who
do you think it is?
What do you mean?
The biggest competition to the Chiefs.
It's nobody with hobo quarterbacks, if I'm going to quote one of George's best. For
it's New Orleans.
Journeyman.
It's New Orleans.
Journeyman hobos. You called them hobos, didn't you? Journeyman hobo quarterback.
It's New Orleans.
Don't talk about Whitlock.
And my issue. So Soren, you brought up a great point about 2 months ago when they faced the New England Patriots with Brian Hoyer. They let the Patriots run for 185 on them. and they lulled that offense into this false sense of a lack of urgency, right? Like Drew Lock throws a touchdown pass and he's doing this thing to his hometown, and I get he's having fun, but like they clearly didn't understand the urgency on offense they needed. Last week, the exact same thing happened to Denver. They gave up 179 on the ground. It didn't look pretty. Some of that was on one run, granted, but that distribution, I think, is always going to favor Kansas City. This one where the other team thinks they lull themselves into this idea of being in the game physically, right? And then Kansas City just hits them with, obviously, their player, their speed on the outside, but also their sharpness of their coaches. What I found was interesting is in like the Raiders game, they gave up, 275 through the air, 89 on the ground. It was the urgency that the Raiders had was immense. And to your point about Tennessee was controlling that game in the AFC title game. And what happened was the Chiefs scored a touchdown to Tyreek Hill, and the Tennessee Titans to end the half went run, screen to Deion Lewis, punt. Perfect. And the game was over. And like, to beat Kansas City, you have to play the way the Raiders did. And I think that's what the matchup is Gruden sort of knows he can't give any fucks in that game. Like, if you lose to the Chiefs, it's who cares? Everybody loses.
If you lose by 40,
yeah, who cares? There's no admirable thing about losing by a little bit, right? What you want to do is beat them. And they played that game, to your point, Soren, in Arrowhead to beat the Chiefs. If they would have missed that fourth down, they're going to come back and lose, but that was the expected outcome. And I think that's how. So when I look at the rest of the NFL, you have to think of teams that actually think that way. And again,
Sean Payton's
a guy who thinks that way. He doesn't have the quarterback yet, but Kevin Stefanski thinks that way. Frank Reich thinks that way. And the problem is, when you look at trying to handicap other teams being able to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, there aren't coaches who think that way that have that quarterback, except for maybe the Saints.
I'll give you one.
The
Bills.
Yes.
I think the Bills, now, whether Josh Allen, you need to catch Josh Allen on a good day, certainly, because he's very volatile. But on a good day, he is accurate enough, he's shown this year, and their coaches certainly feel that way. They've been one of the most pass-heavy teams on early downs. They have Stephon Diggs, who's really good. That would be one more that I'd throw in there.
Yeah, I called the Bills, I can't remember what show it was, I called them Dollar Store Chiefs, because like they kind of have the same defense. They play the 4-3. They give up a decent amount of run. They're not brilliant. Tre'Davious White's really good, but they're not like brilliant anywhere on defense. They don't get a good pass rush. And on offense, the highs for Josh Allen are really high. Like they're in that they're close, right? The lows are dark though. and Mahomes just simply doesn't have those lows ever in his game.
No, but I mean, have a day, right? Like Nick Foles had a quarter of a season and they won a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
If you've got that kind of ability and you can be high, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he looks like a hero for 3 games, right? So on any one given day, he can throw for 6 touchdowns on you. So yeah, I think all those are. I mean, listen, it's the NFL. There's a reason why, and if you have the quarterback and you can score points, and you just hit on some of the teams that can, that's it. I've always wondered, being a casual fan of math, not the nerds that you guys are, right? But I've never understood why coaches didn't keep scoring until they thought they had more touchdowns or a lead, that there was more than 8 points times however many possessions were left for the other team. Right? And it's always been like this coaches fraternity kicks in. Like at 17, you got to kind of ease off. And if you don't end up winning, you just say, hey, listen, kind of the stupid thing I heard from Mike Tomlin, and I love Mike Tomlin. I think he's fantastic, but in this game that we play, if you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to win. Mm-hmm. No.
That's not the game. That's not the objective function. The objective function is to win. You're right.
Score more points. That's the objective of the game.
Yeah,
that mentality that takes you back to this old school Cro-Magnon style football where you have to somehow physically abuse your opponents. That is something that just is not a reality, that you should not be thinking that way. And so for me, I think the reality is they're not going to, the team that's going to have to beat the Chiefs is the one that says, we're going to keep being aggressive. We're going to keep putting out, 7 points, every single time down the field until they just absolutely can't catch up to us. Right. And I think That's got to be the mindset. And the Raiders, to their credit, in icing the game with the 4-minute offense, they threw a couple of times, right? They went for it on a 4th down in the win in Kansas City in their 4-minute offense. They didn't go, oh, we got a punt. They stayed aggressive. And eventually that's how this game is going to be played by everybody, because, whoever the best is just moves the bar, and there'll be guys that come along behind Mahomes and have his abilities, and you're going to have to play this game to beat any good team at some point. It's definitely how you have to play it to beat the Chiefs.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.